Hey everyone, Dev with Crime Hive, and in this true crime video, we're talking about a man who was shot 9 times in this alleged murder for hire plot, and we learned that he survives. He actually magically survives this attack, and we learned that his ex-wife was involved. So we're going to get into the details of this case and how that was planned and how this was carried out, and then when we're done with that, we're going to just give a quick update in the Sydney Sutherland case, and then we're going to end it with something positive. I've gotten a lot of feedback from you all, and it sounds like it's a good idea to end these videos with something positive since we're talking about some pretty dark and tragic things here. So we're going to continue that as well. Now, again, before I get into this video, just be sure to subscribe if you like these kind of true crime videos. Hit the bell notification to all. That will give you complete updates to this case and other cases that I'm currently following as well. So let's get into this case here. You've got this man here, Baron Lee, and it's amazing that he was shot 9 times and then survived. And this really begins on July 10th of 2020. And I'm referring here to the Washington Post as we kind of go through, and I've got some other resources as well. But he's literally walking out of his apartment, just going to get to his car. It's about 8:24 in the morning, and next thing you know, he hears this loud crack that sounds like fireworks to him, and he's getting shot at. First shot goes to his leg. He gets shot in the arm, and he goes down. He basically crouches down into the fetal position. He's right by his car. Bullets are getting riddled all over the place. His car is getting shot at. He's getting shot at. And apparently he had, 12 entry and exit points with these bullets. So, but he was shot 9 times. And he recounts a slender teenager was over him, just literally emptying the entire clip. And once the clip was emptied, he runs off. And he had no idea who this kid was, but he immediately suspects his ex-wife. And we're going to talk about his experience with the shooting here. We're just going to play a quick clip here from Kiro7 here.
Baron Lee was shot 9 times as he walked to his car at the overlook at Lakemont Apartments on July 10th.
And I was thinking, oh my God, I'm dead. He's standing right over me with the gun pointed right at me.
He hid behind the steering column and waited for the bullets to run out. Cairo 7 obtained these photos of Lee's car, riddled with bullet holes. When investigators asked Lee who would want to hurt him, he told them he and Kelley were in a custody battle over their 6-year-old special needs son. Lee says his ex-wife was after their son's trust.
That's absolutely the case. It's all about the money.
Okay, so we learn a little bit more as I played that clip for you all that this really stems from a custody battle, and it's about money. And so what we learn is he was married to a woman, I'm going to refer to my notes over here as well, named Shaerin Kelley. And they were married, and they ended up getting a divorce in 2015. Kelley actually filed for divorce, and so she ends up having custody of their child. Again, 6-year-old, special needs, and apparently this child has a trust fund set up. So there's a lot of money involved in this trust fund, and Kelley apparently plots to find a way to get access to this money. And it kind of leads down this path for murder. And so what we learned, though, is after 2015, so she has custody of the son, and then the son gets sent to foster care in 2017. And this is because of neglect on Kelley's part. So we learned that Baron then it was granted custody of the child about 2 years later. And Kelley's allowed visits. She's allowed these weekly visits. And then in March of 2020, these visits become supervised. So now she's got these supervised visits, and she wants this money. And this was all stemming from a brain injury to her son. And so they had these settlement funds from that. So there's this money involved. So she plans this plot to kill him. And it's a murder for hire plot. She ends up hiring a teenager. And we learn that this teenager, his name is Joseph Good. Okay, and so she carries out this hit to pay him out $13,000. I don't know how she came up with that amount. $13,000 though is going to be given to him, if he carried out and killed her ex-husband. So I'm going to keep going down as we refer here to the article. And so as we continue through, okay, and so going back to the crime scene here, this is kind of how police were able to piece this together. So in the article, we know that there were bystanders that saw or heard the shooting. They quickly called 911, and then first responders get there. This is what ultimately helped save Barron's life, is the fact that a quick call to 911. We learned that 3 tourniquets were used on Barron as he was taken to a Seattle hospital for surgery. So tourniquets really saved him in this incident. And then we also learned from that crime scene there was a getaway truck. That getaway truck was driven by Good's friend. And so you've got this teenager, right? And I mentioned his name just a little bit ago, Joseph Good. He has his friend Quincy Mendez help as a driver. So what happens is Quincy Mendez ends up getting his father's truck, and he uses it during this crime. He ends up going with Joseph Good. They leave on July 10th in the morning. They park at a park, and then Joseph Good gets out with the gun. Mendez is sitting there and then basically just waits for Mendez to empty this clip on Barron, and then he runs back to the truck. The truck driven by Mendez drives off. Surveillance video was actually in that area, and police were able to determine the license plate of that vehicle, which then led back to Mendez. Okay, so that's how they really started piecing this together. And then, of course, because of what Barron was mentioning, knowing right away that his wife had to somehow been involved, his ex-wife, police immediately set out and put surveillance on Kelley. So they were immediately involved and quickly looking to apprehend these 3 people involved in this murder. So continuing on with the tourniquet, though, and I wanted to show a quick clip on this because I think it's so important. I like to educate a little bit in my clips here. So this is just a quick clip, and it's just a makeshift tourniquet, something that can really save you. If you have a tourniquet, absolutely keep one with you in your vehicle. It's just great to have in case something like this were to happen to you. Anybody can become a victim these days. There's just crazy amount of shootings and violence now. And this is just a quick, easy, makeshift way for you to apply a tourniquet. So I'm just going to play that real quick. Hopefully that gives you some knowledge on that. Okay, so this comes from Rated Red. Just wanted to play a quick video. I thought that was a good, quick clip on basically applying a tourniquet and potentially saving your life or someone else's life. So continuing on with the case here and going back into the story then, again, 9 times. If you guys remember another similar incident here with 50 Cent being shot 9 times. And he survived. So 50 Cent survived 9 shots to him as well, if you guys remember his story, and went on to make millions recording his albums and being authentic and just really talking about his life and what he encountered. And so really interesting though that it just made me think of that when Barron was shot 9 times, was 50 Cent being shot 5 times as well, which is just amazing that they both survived that. Now going back to the story, I want to now start to piece together how police really figured this out. So a couple things that we learned, and I'll go back to this article in just a second, actually. So I want to show the arrest of Kelley here, just to show you kind of what she looks like and kind of give you a better idea of the arrest here.
Dramatic video as a woman is arrested for allegedly hiring a hitman to kill her ex-husband. He was ambushed and shot 9 times, but incredibly, he's still alive.
9 shots in me. I had, I think, 12 entry and exit wounds.
Barron Lee was in a bitter custody battle with his ex-wife over their son.
I could deal with a bad wife, but I couldn't deal with a bad mother.
As Lee walked to his car in Bellevue, Washington, cops say a masked assassin...
Okay, so just wanted to show you kind of what she looked like and give you an idea on that real quick. So she was arrested, and then we start to learn more details on how she carried this out. So one of the things we learned is that Kelley actually placed a tracker on Barron's vehicle. Okay, so she'd already set up this hit, $13,000 for the teenager, and his friend who were going to carry this out, she ends up going to this site called Brickhouse Security, and she purchases a GPS tracking device, okay? And this device is placed, it was planted under the undercarriage of Barron's vehicle. And so she forwards this information to the teenagers so they could actually track the vehicle, and they knew exactly where Barron was. So it was really pre-planned. And so just to give you an idea of how that works here, I actually went to Brickhouse Security, and I'm going to play this quick little video just to give you an idea of what they had access to. So they were able to get the login information from Kelley. They logged in. And this is the kind of stuff they're seeing while they're tracking Barron's vehicle.
Brickhouse Security brings you the best in GPS tracking, and we're proud to offer the very best devices in the industry. Whatever you need to track, we've got the right tracker for the job on our best-in-class tracking platform. Log into the platform from any web-enabled device.
So that's what they did. They logged in.
Laptop or desktop PC, smartphone, or tablet to get instant access to your tracker's location. Brickhouse Tracking's mapping system is based on Google Maps, so most users will be familiar with how to zoom, move, and change views the first time they log in. Click on the icon to get your device's most recent location and speed, as well as recent alerts. You can also get a street view if Google has one available.
So you can see all the access they have,
lets you view locations reported in the
and all the information they have from this company. So this is the exact company they used, and so we learned more details about it as we continue. Okay, so all three of them were arrested on October 8th, not very long ago, as I showed you in that video, and so they begin to interview them, and here's what we learned. So Good, who was the shooter in this case, he initially denied his relationship with the other teen, Mendez, who drove the getaway truck. So remember, they had the plate. They already knew it was linked to him. They already, with the GPS tracker, they actually tracked that purchase to Kelley. So they knew that she had purchased that tracker and was using that site. And so that was something that the police had realized as well through records. So when they're talking to Good, he initially denies this relationship, and then he basically just immediately closes up and hires an attorney, requests an attorney. Same thing with Kelley. She doesn't really open up. She hires an attorney. But Mendez, who, remember, was just the getaway driver essentially for this, he ends up speaking with investigators. And so I'm sure he may have made some sort of deal with them. He says that he was driving. He learns from Good that Good told him he was going to cap someone and empty a clip. And he thought that meant he was going to shoot someone. So he knew what was going on, and he's essentially an accomplice. And that's important to note because police want to know the intent from Mendez. You know, did Mendez just drive along, had no idea what was going on, and then learns this after the fact? No, he tells police that he did know that this shooting was going to take place. And so he's very much involved in this case, even though he wasn't the shooter. So what we learn is, you know, like I mentioned, he went to the park. They drive off. The shooter, Good, actually promised to pay Mendez somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000 just for driving. And what happened, though, is Mendez and Good learned that Barron survived, so they actually didn't get paid. And so what happens immediately after Kelley, the ex-wife, she learns that Barron survived, she immediately begins plotting a second time. So she's literally plotting again to figure out a way to end Barron's life. And so it's really a second plot. And as we learn from these records here, from a lot of these news sources, they were texting back and forth. They were trying to figure out, a place to, Kelley was going to have money dropped off for Good and Mendez as kind of a down payment for carrying out a second hit, essentially. So she was gonna leave money in a park and drop it off for them, and then they were gonna carry it out again. But luckily, police were able to intervene and arrest them before they were able to carry out a second hit. Okay, so can you imagine that after Barron is shot 9 times, all of a sudden he's getting shot at again, or he's potentially murdered. So really interesting case, and I'm curious what your thoughts are below on this murder for hire plot and I'll continue to get more updates as we know. They're supposed to be indicted soon, and we're going to learn more from that. So next, I want to carry over real quick with just a quick update in the Sydney Sutherland case. So again, story that I covered. It was a very tragic story as well. We learned that she was murdered by Quake Lewellyn right here. And we learned a couple new details. Now, we know that he essentially abducted her, sexually assaulted her, and buried her. But a couple new details we learned from the affidavit, which was actually just recently released. So I'm just going to cover a quick synopsis of that, because there's just a couple new details. I think we have learned most of already of what has happened, and I'm just going to cover what's new that you may not be aware of. So what he says in this affidavit was he did say that he observed Sydney Sutherland running on County Road 41 before her disappearance. And if you're not familiar with this case, I do have other videos that you can go back to. So what we learn is about an hour after Sutherland was discovered missing, Llewellyn's phone, he actually gave police his phone, and this was all consensual. He just gives the phone to them. They learned that there was a location service application, and it indicated there was this geographical location about 2.36 miles from where Sutherland's phone was located. If you remember, her iPhone was located nearby on her running path. So so police actually go to this location, and nearby, that's where they discover her body in a shallow grave. And so that was just an interesting thing there, is they actually learned it from the phone application on his phone. That's how they were able to actually pinpoint. He didn't specifically say where she was. They learned that information from technology, which again, phones are solving so many cases nowadays, which is just really interesting. And he does admit that when he saw Sydney, he actually rammed her with his truck. So that's actually what we learned. A lot of people think maybe he just got out of the truck and we weren't quite sure what had happened, if he just subdued her physically. And, Sutherland was very fit. I think, she very well may have been able to take care of herself and maybe even prevent the attack, but she was hit with a vehicle. And so you've got this full force vehicle hitting her, and that's really what subdued her. And then he gets out of the vehicle, was able to basically snatch her up and take her to a location to sexually assault her. So that's the detail that we've learned from there, and that's how he was able to subdue her initially, was from hitting her with the truck. So and then he admits later on to transporting her to that location that was shown in the phone app, and the rest we know. So it's a very tragic story on there, but I wanted to give you that specific update on that case. And that really concludes this. The last thing that I want to point out is I like to end something positive. This quick photo comes from India.com. And, it's interesting. I don't know if you have pets or not, but if you have a cat, you know that they like to just squeeze into just about anything. They'll fit into a small shoebox. It could be a tiny box, and they'll try to fit in it. And so I thought that was a really happy image to share to end this video with everything that I've covered. And again, this is Dev with Crime Hive. I will be back with another video. Please leave your comments below. If you have updates on any of these cases, let me know. And we'll be back in another video soon. Y'all take care.